It's time for Ask Zach. This is the segment I do at the end of every single one of my podcasts. People who support me on Patreon, patreon.com/Zach Schomler. It's $1 a month. You can donate more if you want. It really helps. That's how I pay my bills, literally. But $1 a month gives you access to submit questions on Patreon. And I only accept questions on Patreon. That's how I do it. And I will not guarantee that if you send in a question, I will read it on the show. But I do guarantee I will look at it with my eyeballs. I look at every single question, and then I pick the best couple at the end of every episode and talk about them at the show. And it's fun. It's my favorite segment. A lot of people have said that even though they don't donate money, they still love listening to it. It's been a huge success in my opinion. I'm very happy with. I love doing it. I get to interact with people. There's 280 of you right now. I think maybe more now today. And I try to send messages to you guys and interact with as many as I can. It's a lot of people to stay in touch with, but your questions are awesome. They mean a lot to me. They're very valuable. And let's start with Brendan's. Brendan wrote in and said, "Hey, Zach, I know it's a common excuse, but I'm a Lions fan, and I really believe the refs had an impact on the outcome of the game on Monday Night Football against the Packers. I'm sure you watched the game. While the Lions could have and should have done more, like capitalizing on red zone trips with touchdowns instead of field goals, I believe the Lions played well enough to beat the Packers. Did the refs screw the Lions in the end? What are your thoughts on the referees lately? I know they're humans, but it's getting bad. Thanks, and congratulations on your recent success." Brendan, I love this question, and everybody in the world, I get so many comments and messages, and frankly, ask Zach questions about the refs. Like, Zach, when are you going to talk about the refs? Fine, I'll do it. I'm not sure what people want me to say about the referees. It's do they want me to compile a giant list of examples when the refs have screwed up in a game? I mean, do they want me to just say they're bad? Because they are bad. It has been bad. I acknowledge. It's obvious. But also, we've been paying attention way more than normal to the refs. When have we ever spent this much time in a season dedicated to the refs? And when have we spent ever before this much time in an off season dedicated to the refs? The way the year ended last year with the Saints and the Rams, the second to last game of the year, had a gigantic controversial call. A missed pass interference call. What should have been pass interference absolutely was missed. And then for like 8 months, we talked about it. And so more than ever before, there's a focus on the refs. And then the NFL made a change. After that game, the Saints game where the missed pass interference call happened, people freaked out. The NFL is terrible. This should not be allowed to happen. So the NFL responded. They made a change. They said, okay, we'll give you what you want. And now people are kind of getting what they deserve. They got to change to the rule. You can now challenge that call. Refs are imperfect. Refs are human beings. So we now have created a system in the NFL where you can challenge judgment calls. We literally highlight in slow motion. On national television, we highlight the moments where refs screw up. We highlight bad calls because we can challenge them. And of course, that makes referees look bad. Like, hello, I mean, whenever you highlight someone's big mistake on national TV in slow motion, it looks really bad. If you highlighted every mistake I ever made on this show where I misspeak or I forget a name or I miss an edit, like whatever you want, right? If you highlighted a video of all those and played them in slow motion on national TV, I'd look like an idiot. I would, because I say a lot of dumb stuff. I make mistakes. The difference is now every mistake is magnified on a giant screen. So of course, the refs look bad. Also, the rule was created to prevent heinous, horrible mistakes from being made. The rule was created to protect teams like the Saints from losing that way. And I'm seeing, though, a lot of coaches are throwing refs on like contentious, controversial calls that are like, that's not obvious. That's really hard to tell. It's not clear whether that's pass interference or not. So, of course, they're going to screw that one up because the rule isn't created for a really close, intense pass interference. It's created to solve the problem of when there's a really horrible missed call, we can fix that. And I think we're still figuring out, coaches are still figuring out when it's okay to challenge. And like, remember when challenges were first brought into the NFL? When challenges at all, when replay challenges with red flags were first thrown into the game, everybody hated it. And coaches didn't understand how to use it. They couldn't figure it out. They wasted a lot of people wasted flags early on. I saw a comment on YouTube that said, want to lose a challenge and a timeout? Challenge a pass interference call. Well, you could have said the same thing years ago when challenges were brought into the game at all. No one really knew how to use them because it's a new system. And we're all figuring out this new thing, this new reality with challengeable pass interference calls. Of course it's bad. Nobody knows what they're doing yet. We got to acclimate to the situation. In a couple more weeks, it'll slow down and coaches will learn, hey, that one's really close. It's not obvious. Let's not throw a challenge because it's hard to tell. Only throw a challenge flag if it's blatant and obvious. And look, yes, refs are screwing up at the end of games, making bad calls that hurt teams' ability to win. Yes, refs are screwing up big time. However, they've been doing that for years. And people have been complaining about refs for years. This is not a new phenomenon. People complaining about referees and referees making bad calls and screwing up. This cycle happens all the time. Again, the difference is now we're highlighting it. Here's the truth, though. I lost a game on national TV in high school. It was embarrassing. It was bad. There was a controversial call. Look up River Skyview blocked kick. We were on Come On Man. We were on The World's Worst. We were on Not Top 10 for 3 months. We beat the butt fumble. It was horrifying. And we blocked their field goal. They picked it up and ran for a touchdown. And one referee blew the whistle. Another ref let the play go on. So they won the game. We lost. And in the locker room after the game, we're all horrified and confused and frustrated and mad because we lost on a really bad call, what we felt was like a really bad call by the refs. Whether it's true or not, the feeling in the locker room was we got hosed by the refs. I don't actually, looking back on that situation, I don't think they were wrong. I think we were wrong. I think the refs did the right thing. But in that locker room, we felt that way. Here's the message our coach told us when we felt screwed over by the refs. He said, let's be honest here. If you win that game by 2 touchdowns, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can't allow referees to control a game. Yes, refs screw up. But I hate when people lean on referees as excuses. I do. Because I've been on the side of a loss that felt unfair, like the refs screwed us over. National TV, not top 10. Come on, man. It was my first varsity start. I had a touchdown with 30 seconds left. I was like, dude, I'm a god. My first touchdown pass, my first varsity start, I had a come from behind victory in the fourth quarter where I drove our team down the field, and that got robbed from me. I was furious. But I also missed a lot of opportunities. A throw on 3rd down. I think I had a fumble. I had moments where I screwed up. You can always find a way to blame the refs, but you also got to look inward and say, hey, players can have a better day too. Throws on 3rd down. Fewer mental mistakes. Do not let the referees have control of a game. The minute you let the refs have control at the end of a game, then it's on you. That's my take on this whole referee thing. It's going to smooth out. We're going to figure it out. Coaches are going to figure out when there's a chance that it was winnable. Like they're going to throw the flag when it's really a winnable scenario. And they're still figuring out what a winnable scenario looks like in a pass interference challengeable situation. And refs are going to get better. It's just a new thing. And whenever you make a change, people hate it. People hate change, period. And changes require time. You got to figure it out and really learn, okay, this works better here, this works better here. So everyone just relax, have some patience. I know that people are furious about the refs. We're paying way more attention than ever before. And it's going to, I think honestly, over time, it's going to solve, the problem's going to solve itself. Okay, Zach wrote in. Zach, I love your name, man. He says, hey, Zach, do you think Jake Fromm may stay his senior year like Justin Herbert did, especially if he doesn't make the playoffs this year, since we usually see one quarterback do this every year? So Jake Fromm is the quarterback at Georgia, and yes, he should stay for his senior year. I think it'd be really bad if he left. I get it if he wants to go. He's like, I'm a first-round pick, and I don't want to risk my stock dropping off. But I'd be really disappointed in his confidence in himself if he said, I'm going to go to the NFL now and take the money because I'm afraid my stock is going to fall off. You're afraid you're going to do bad next year? Like, are you not confident in your ability? First of all, Jake Fromm has unfinished business at Georgia. They lost this year to South Carolina, and I think they can do better. And that's how college football works, is once you lose one game, your year is pretty much over. He also needs to continue developing as a quarterback. Jake Fromm, I heard a scary stat, and I don't know what to make of this stat yet, but he's 0-5 in games where he throws the ball more than 30 times. It could mean nothing. It could be, the reason why he's throwing the ball so much in those games is because he's losing and he's trying to come from behind. You could also say, he's throwing the ball when, they have no running game. And you could say, well, it's concerning because Jake Fromm throwing the ball means you lose. So there's a lot of ways you can mince it, and really that statistic can be skewed any way you want. I love Jake Fromm. He's a great quarterback in every sense of that word. He's a great leader who I think rallies the people around him and who says the right stuff, who has a good spirit I like. I really like Jake Fromm. I'm a big fan of his. But physically, he's very, very average. Doesn't have the biggest arm. Like Jacob Eason, the former Georgia quarterback, who's probably going to be a first-round pick, has a way bigger arm than Jake Fromm. Not even close. Not even close. And I personally need to see more progression from Jake Fromm before I'm comfortable saying he's a first-round pick. I want to see him play another year and get a little bit better. He lost to South Carolina because he couldn't handle the frustration of not having offensive success. His offense was struggling. And the way he handled that was he began forcing throws into coverage when they weren't there. He had a really ugly pick six. And he needs to learn from that. He needs to take what the defense gives him and be more patient. And there are a lot of little tiny lessons like that Jake Fromm needs to learn before he's ready to be a professional quarterback. So I think he should stay. I think he's much better suited if he stays in college rather than going earlier to the NFL. Okay, Lucas wrote in. English is hard. I love that I can say that, because every time I screw up on the show, I just go, English is hard, man. It's difficult. As if that's a real excuse. It is, though. It's hard to talk for. The timer says an hour, 21 seconds. It'll be shorter than that. But anyways, Lucas writes in, because I don't pause the recording when I take a break and walk away. I literally walk away. Everything keeps running. That's a little secret. I go to the bathroom, records it all. I just cut it out. You can't hear it. And my bathroom's far away. You can't hear. I'm going to stop talking. You don't need to know these details. But for the record, the camera couldn't pick up me peeing if it wanted to. It's too far away. The microphone it can't pick up a sound that loud enough. The camera's facing the wrong way. It doesn't matter. I said I was done. I'm done, okay? Leave me alone. That might be one of my favorite moments I've ever had on the show, where I'm like talking too much about this thing that concerns and confuses me, and I don't want to talk about it. Lucas writes in, he says, "Hey, Zach, love the show. My question is, who do you see being the NFL's next dynasty once Brady and Belichick are done in New England?" First of all, there is no next New England Patriots dynasty. No one else is going to do what they've done. Bill Belichick has been with the Patriots for 20 years. And, you only hear of dominance like that in high school. Like, is this modern day high school New England? Like the modern day Patriots? Because that's the only, high school's the only place where you hear of a coach who's been somewhere for 20 years, who's won 6 championships, been to 9. Sometimes you hear college coaches, but even Nick Saban's not been that dominant. It's unbelievable what the Patriots have done at this level. They've also been to the AFC Championship 13 times, which means that 4 of the years they didn't make the Super Bowl, they still were in the game to get into the Super Bowl. They were a game away. Belichick and Brady's run has been incredible. And nobody ever is going to repeat it. But I know that wasn't the question. The question was, who is the next dynasty? And my answer is, I don't think there is another next dynasty. I think the NFL has changed its salary so much, and players are so much more aware and they know their worth, You're not going to be able to build another team that can win Super Bowls back-to-back or have a consistent run like that, no matter who your quarterback is, no matter what happens. You're never going to see another player like Tom Brady who takes a pay cut to win. I thought the best chance of this happening was Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson didn't. Dak Prescott won't. Aaron Rodgers didn't. Patrick Mahomes will not. Carson Wentz didn't. Drew Brees didn't. Not only are quarterbacks making more and more than ever before, exorbitant amounts, taking far more of the salary cap than I think they should. You also got to pay your other guys more. Guys like Khalil Mack. Running backs are making record contracts. Every contract I hear seems like a new record contract because players, again, understand their worth and their value. You can't keep players on your team. Jalen Ramsey just got traded from the Jaguars because they didn't want to pay him what he wanted. And so you're going to see consistent good teams. You're going to see teams like the Seahawks have a good culture. They've been consistently good over the years, but they haven't been a dynasty that's dominated. But the Seahawks have won at different times over the years with Pete Carroll because of their culture. The word is culture. The way you win consistently in the NFL, and really in anything, in sports, in business, in life, in literally anything, the way you're consistently good for a long time is with culture. However, the way you consistently win Super Bowls is great rosters and talent. How do the Dallas Cowboys or the Steelers in the 70s or the 49ers, how did teams consistently win multiple Super Bowls in a row or back-to-back-to-back? Had a ton of talent. And you can't keep a ton of talent around together anymore because guys understand I can make $57 million guaranteed over there with that team who's not as good. And I'm going to go get that. You can't build a dynasty on just culture. You also need stars. And we're not going to see a team be able to bring together stars the way teams... I think of Troy Aikman and the Dallas Cowboys. That's never going to happen again. It's not. You can try. And it might work for 1 year. The Rams last year had a giant collection of talent. But it lasted 1 year and it fizzled out and fell apart. And nobody else. This is the amazing thing about the New England Patriots, why they're so impressive. They have won Super Bowls without the talent. The Patriots are the only team in NFL history, and I think the only team ever that will be able to do this because of the stars aligned with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. It's just a incredible situation we will never, ever, 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 ever see again. This is why when I talked about the Patriots at the beginning of the year, I said, appreciate Tom Brady. Appreciate Drew Brees, but especially appreciate Tom Brady because you're never, ever going to see this again. There's a reason. I'm going to Cincinnati on December 16th, I believe, to go watch the Patriots and the Bengals because I want to see Tom. I don't really have the money for that, but I don't care. I bought it. I paid for it. I want to go see Tom Brady play before he retires because I might never, ever, ever again get the chance to see Tom Brady play live. And I want to see that happen because I understand and respect that it's a special thing we'll never, ever be able to see again. This is why the Patriots are special. They didn't need stars. The Patriots have won with culture and culture alone. Culture. Guys bought into their system. They were coachable. They paid attention. You'll never, ever see another team ever in your lifetime win 6 Super Bowls, go to 9, because guys bought into the system. And they didn't need star players. They didn't need a bunch of Pro Bowlers because guys did their job at an extremely elite level of doing your job. We'll never, ever see that ever again. There's not another dynasty coming. There's not another New England Patriots. That is why the Patriots are so special and why we will never see their success ever again. Sharky wrote in. Sharky, I love your name. Sharky wrote in and said, what are some mid-season trades you'd like to see happen? So the NFL trade deadline is at 3 p.m. Central Time on Tuesday, October 29th. It's coming up fast. The number one trade I want to see is the Bears trade for quarterback Marcus Mariota or Cam Newton, Panthers quarterback. Trade for Marcus Mariota, the quarterback of the Titans, or Cam Newton, the quarterback of the Panthers. Cam Newton's not playing. He's getting overshadowed by Kyle Allen. Marcus Mariota just got benched. And it needs to happen. Matt Nagy is an offensive genius, and he's too good of an offensive coach to have his offense wasted with their quarterback, Mitchell Trubisky. What Matt Nagy does that's incredible over and over and over and over again is he finds a way to create really good matchups. Like you go, wow, how did he get Tariq Cohen that wide open? I don't understand. It's unbelievable. He's just so good at that. And the quarterback for the Bears, Mitchell Trubisky, is not good enough to capitalize. And it drives me nuts. I hate watching it. And he's inept. Mitchell Trubisky's inept. He either can't see guys when they're wide open, or he can't complete the pass. He's inaccurate enough. He misses reads. He's bad. He's so, so bad. And I think, man, you're wasting a great Bears defense, a great head coach, because you're waiting for this horrible quarterback to develop, and it's not happening. So I think the Bears could honestly, they're this good on defense and have this good of an offensive coach. They could win a Super Bowl, if they brought in Marcus Mariota, the quarterback of the Titans. He's not incredible. He failed in Tennessee, but I guarantee you he can do better than what I watch every single Sunday from Mitchell Trubisky, who just makes me want to pull my hair out and literally just, I'm at my wit's end. Like, I can't handle this. I think Marcus Mariota is a better fit for the Bears than Cam Newton, but either one, Cam Newton or Marcus Mariota, trade for them. If you're the Bears, make a move and make a trade for one of those two quarterbacks, because you need him, and your team is too good to stick with Trubisky, who stinks and isn't making it happen. The second trade I want to see is A.J. Green, the receiver from the Bengals, go literally anywhere else. I hate watching A.J. Green in Cincinnati. He's trapped there. He's on the trading block potentially. Get him out of Cincinnati. I think the Patriots should give up 2 first-round picks to get him. I think, honestly, the team I want to see make a move for him is the Dallas Cowboys. And I know that's, people go, oh, they already have Amari Cooper. Yes, they do. I'm not a huge Amari Cooper fan. I think he's fine. I think there's other receivers that'd be better suited as a number 1. And not only do I want to see the Cowboys have a great receiving core so that you can never, ever again make excuses for Dak Prescott. If Dak Prescott doesn't win with Amari Cooper and A.J. Green, well, no more excuses for that guy. Well, the other thing is this. The Cowboys owner and decision maker, Jerry Jones, has had 3 years with Dak Prescott on a really small contract. And he didn't capitalize. He hasn't capitalized on the time he had with a quarterback that was cheap. The Rams, the Eagles, with Carson Wentz and Jared Goff, when those quarterbacks had small contracts, they were making moves left and right, trading for guys, making name, getting people in free agency. Like, we have a bunch of salary cap space. We're going to use it all. And the Cowboys haven't been doing that with all they're like saving up for the future. And I get it. I don't blame them at all. They want to keep their team together long term. But I think it's kind of on the Cowboys. You had a chance to win a Super Bowl when your quarterback was really cheap. And I still wouldn't, by the way, I wouldn't pay Dak Prescott what he wants. But I think the Cowboys had better make a move. And the point is, it's wishful thinking. I so badly want A.J. Green out of Cincinnati on a team that has a chance to win, where he can make an impact, whether it's the Detroit Lions or the Packers or the Patriots, or I don't care. I don't. I just want to see A.J. Green out of Cincinnati. It breaks my heart to watch. There's another trade that's been rumored. It's the Vikings receiver Stephon Diggs. I hope he doesn't get traded. I don't think he's going anywhere, but I hope Stephon Diggs does not get traded out of Minnesota. I hear rumors, but I think he'd be very unwise. He's so good, and it's such a big part of the Vikings. I really would hate to see them get rid of Stephon Diggs. And if the Vikings traded away Stephon Diggs because he had a problem with their head coach, Mike Zimmer, I guess here's the point. If the Vikings decide to stick with Mike Zimmer and get rid of A.J. Green, and that side, if there is, I'm being very outrageous and ridiculous here right now. But if the truth is that there's a gigantic divide in the Vikings locker room, and it's Mike Zimmer, the head coach, versus receiver Stephon Diggs, I'm choosing Stephon Diggs. Mike Zimmer is on his way out. I don't think he's got great. I wouldn't get rid of Stephon Diggs because he offended Mike Zimmer. That'd be very silly. I would not at all trade Stephon Diggs. Okay, we have 2 more questions left. They are long. They're about the Falcons. Like, literally, like, they are so long. But they're very, I think the reason why I'm going to, one of them even suggests you could shorten them. I'm going to read the whole question because I think that the question themselves offers so much background to the situation, and I think they're helpful. So Kyler writes in and says, it's very long. It says, hey, Zach, hope you're doing good. First of all, just want to say I've been watching you since like March or April. I think you had 15 or 20,000 subscribers at the time. So I just think it's awesome to see your growth. I think your analytical and personal viewpoint as a quarterback is so damn refreshing. Oh, I said, dang. So dang refreshing. And I can't wait to see where you take the channel. Side note, you should sell some merch. Merch is coming. Can't wait. Merch is coming very soon. I have an announcement coming. I just can't talk about it yet. We're very, very close. On to the questions. He says, I'm a Falcons fan, and Lord have mercy, does it suck to be one right now? It seems like all Georgia teams can't finish, but regardless, what are your thoughts on the Falcons' struggles? It's hard to read aloud. It's very difficult. Do you think that it is largely due to post-Super Bowl expectations, with that season largely being a fluke, since we had an amazing coordinator in Kyle Shanahan, who I will root for wherever he is? Or do you think the reason why the Falcons have struggled is attributed to injuries over the past few years, or maybe that Dan Quinn has taken too much on his plate and the players both defensively aren't buying into a system, and similarly the offense not buying into the offensive coordinator? I feel like we obviously have a passing talent. I've never liked our running situation, to be frank, but I think you have. But do you think Matty Ice is a long-term option for us anymore, especially given the turnover-heavy season he's having? Sorry for the long question. You could definitely shorten it. I will not, Kyler. I like the question. It's Kyler's question. Okay, now here's a weird name. It's clearly a real name. It's not. It's Despot DLR says, hello, I found your YouTube channel recently, and your vids do help me a lot to understand the game better. As we in Europe just started to get an interest in American football, so I have a question about my favorite team, the Atlanta Falcons. I got to ask, you're in Europe. How do you become a Falcons fan? Like, is that the team you picked? And why did you pick them? I wouldn't pick the Falcons. I would pick, like, I don't know. Maybe you picked them when they were good in the Super Bowl. I have no idea. I just want to know, Despot, how did you become a Falcons fan? If you ever want to send me a message on Patreon DMs, that'd be a fun conversation to have. I'm curious. And if you want, I'll even read it aloud on the show because that'd be really fun. We can follow up on the narrative next week. How did this guy become a Falcons fan in Europe? Like, why did he choose the Falcons? Very curious. His question is, how can it be that our defense is in this terrible state and get worse every year, even though we have former defensive coordinator for the Seahawks and Dan Quinn as head coach and defensive coordinator, who is a big part of the creation of Legion of Boom? Why does it not work out in Atlanta? I know I screwed that up when I read it with, the inflection, whatever, but here's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing, like, what's wrong with the Falcons and why isn't Dan Quinn working? I want to compare Dan Quinn to his former head coach, Pete Carroll. Why is Pete Carroll successful and Dan Quinn is not? 2 reasons to me. Culture and quarterback. Number one, the quarterback, Pete Carroll has had Russell Wilson bail him out of so many situations. I don't think anybody realizes, and I hope Pete Carroll does, how lucky he's been to have Russell Wilson. He has carried their team at times. The Falcons quarterback, Matt Ryan, is good. He's not as good as Russell Wilson. He's good. He's one of those guys, I love my girlfriend. I like my friends. I like Matt Ryan. I love Russell Wilson. Like and love are different. I like Matt Ryan. I don't love him. Matt Ryan cannot carry a team with a bad defense and a bad offensive coordinator. Russell Wilson did that for years in Seattle with Darrell Bevell. And I think that Steve Sarkisian, bad in Atlanta. And people talk like Dan Quinn doesn't know defense. Dan Quinn is a great defensive mind. He is. I like his mind. He knows scheme incredibly well. I heard someone, I think it was Pat McAfee, saying Dan Quinn was with the Seattle Seahawks and Legion of Boom, but he didn't understand Pete Carroll's system and why it worked. He just knew that it worked. That's not true. Dude, the guy knows football incredibly well. Of course he knows why it works. The difference is, the reason why Dan Quinn has not been successful and Pete Carroll has been, quarterback matters, and culture. Culture The culture in the locker room. Think about Pete Carroll. I've seen interviews with Pete Carroll. I can picture his face. I can picture his smile and the gum he's chewing. Pete Carroll has this great personality and has built a good culture in Seattle. I can't picture. I don't even know what Dan Quinn's voice sounds like. I don't. I'm sure a Falcons fan does. I don't. Why don't I know that? Why don't I see ever pictures of him smiling on the sideline or encouraging guys? The culture that he's built has not been sustainable. He didn't build a long-lasting, sustainable culture in Atlanta. Those are the reasons why Dan Quinn has failed and is failing in Atlanta. He didn't have a great quarterback. He had a good quarterback that I like, I don't love, but he didn't have a Russell Wilson, so you can't carry a bad team. And he didn't build a culture that has bought into that system. Yeah, I love Alex Grinch is the defensive coordinator at Oklahoma. And I love Alex Grinch. I'm a big fan of his. He's awesome. I was there when he was at Washington State briefly. He did so well. He went to Washington State, then went to Ohio State, was co-defensive coordinator with Ohio State, did so well there. He got hired away to Oklahoma. Like, bam, bam, bam. Just his career skyrocketed. And what I love about Alex Grinch is, yes, he's a guy who understands the game really well. He's a defensive genius. And Dan Quinn is a defensive genius, right? A lot of coaches are very, very smart with X's and O's. But what makes Alex Grinch different, and what I observed from Alex Grinch at Washington State, is that he is so good at bringing out the best effort from his players. That's all he asks for. He doesn't ask for you to be incredible or really good or really talented. He wants you to be. He recruits well. But all he asks from his players, it's a very fair thing to ask from your players. Give me your best effort. Put forth your best effort, and we will succeed. If you bring your best effort every single play, we'll win. And the guys at Oklahoma this year especially, Oklahoma's defense is really good this year. Way better than before. What happened? What changed? Recruiting, and then Alex Grinch's guys have bought into him. They fight hard for their coach. They know that if they give great effort mentally and physically, they're in the right spot, they buy into the defense, that it's going to work and they're going to be successful. They've bought into Alex Grinch, and they've made a deal. We succeed if we give great effort every single play all the time. For whatever reason, that same deal has not occurred in Atlanta with Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn has not been able to bring that out of his players, that we're going to be in the right spot every time. We're going to have great effort and great technique. It's not that Dan Quinn doesn't know the X's and O's or the scheme. The culture in Atlanta hasn't worked.